us after the service. There will not actually be a coffee hour, but there's a special event taking place later. So, but we would really love to have you join us after the service today down in Creeves Hall. Our minister, Reverend Tom Capo, our congregational life coordinator, Mary Law, and all of our members are eager to meet you. Please feel free to talk with anyone with a green cup or a white cup and ask any question you might have. Our service can be heard behind the glass doors at the back of the sanctuary, and should anyone feel the need to leave for any reason, there are chairs provided for your convenience. Please refer to the inserts in the order of service for further announcements, and as we begin our service, please silence all electronic devices. Thank you.
I'm Karen Lindebrekke, and I am a member here at DuPage Unitarian Universalist Church. As the autumn leaves fall and the cold winds begin to blow in late autumn, we are reminded that winter is coming. We know to expect in general that autumn is always followed by winter. It's not something we can change, so whether we enjoy the winter months or not, we prepare for it. We may not prepare for every aspect of the changes that occur and the problems that could happen, but as we live through increasingly more revolutions of the earth around the sun, we learn from our experiences, and we learn more about what to expect, including what might go awry. And typically, we become better prepared. When we are better prepared, we tend to be calmer because we've got this. But how do we prepare ourselves to handle the things we did not expect so that we prepare ourselves to the point where we are less likely to be derailed? Sometimes a life event is so monumental that we are derailed despite our best efforts. And we need time and we need help to get our lives back on track. But oftentimes, we let smaller, much smaller, life events trample our spirits and devastate us because we did not expect them. They were unpleasant surprises. They ruined something. These events ruined the image that we had formed based on our expectations. That perfect Thanksgiving dinner where everybody gets along. It actually happened this year at my house. It was amazing. Today's service is our learning to expect the unexpected in life so that we do not lose our balance. We have a chalice lighter today. I think it's Gemma. That's right. This is all about that today. You can come here.
It is better to light one small candle than to curse the darkness. And thousands of candles can be lit from a single candle, and the life of the candle will not be shortened. Happiness never decreases by being shared. Please rise in body or in spirit and join me in saying our mission statement, and please remain standing for our opening hymn. We gather as an inclusive community to grow in character, mind, and spirit, and to transform the world towards fairness, love, and compassion. Please join in singing our opening hymn, number 128, For All That Is Our Life. The words can be found in the gray hymnal and will be projected to my right.
There is a tree at the downhill edge of a long, narrow field in the western foothills of the La Salle Mountains in southeastern Utah. A particular tree, a juniper, large for its species, maybe 20 feet tall and 2 feet in diameter. For perhaps 300 years, this tree has stood its ground, flourishing in good seasons and holding on in bad times. Beautiful may not be a word that comes to mind when one first sees it. No naturalist would photograph it as an exemplary of its kind, twisted by wind, split and charred by lightning, scarred by brush fires, chewed on by insects, and pecked by birds. Human beings have stripped long strings of bark from its trunk, stapled barbed wire to it, using it as a corner post for a fence line, and nailed signs onto 3 sides. No hunting, no trespassing. Please close the gate. In commandeering this tree as a corner stake for claims of rights and property, miners and ranchers have hacked signs and symbols into its bark and left Dayglow orange survey tape tied to its branches. Now it serves as one side of a gate between an alfalfa field and an open range. No matter what, in drought, flood, heat and cold, it has continued. There is rot and death in it near the ground, but the greening tips of its upper branches and in its berry-like seed cones, there is yet the outreach of life. I respect this old juniper tree for its age, yes, and for its steadfastness in taking whatever is thrown at it. That it has been useful in a practical way beyond itself counts for much as well. Most of all, I desire and I admire its capacity for self-healing beyond all accidents and assaults. There's a will in it toward continuing to be, come what may.
Not to brag, but I am an expert on the subject of today's service, which is mistakes. I've had to learn to accept parts of them, embarrassing as they are at the time. Lots of them end up being harmless. What about mistakes that are a little less harmless? How do we forgive ourselves for those, or repeated mistakes? Often I've had the opportunity to make corrections, and I've been warned ahead of time. These types of scenarios I call ignoring the old man. You see, in many of my favorite movies, these are horror movies, there's a scene towards the beginning, right? A group of 5 friends is driving to a cabin in the woods somewhere, and they're getting further and further out from the city on a lonely highway. Eventually, they have to stop for gas. They end up at a dingy, rundown station where they're the only customers. Sitting on the porch is a grizzled old man. I'd turn back if I were you. Nothing good comes from the haunted forest. Why, years ago, something horrible happened there, and no one who travels that way lives to tell the tale. This warning is pretty serious, but the friends don't really know how to respond. Some try to ignore it. The comedian of the group kind of laughs it off, and one woman considers the words of the old man, but she eventually pushes it out of her mind. Now, at first, the cabin in the haunted forest seems fine, but eventually, a scary guy in a mask or a pack of werewolves or swamp zombies descend on the group, and the old man was right. They realize it too late, and one woman survives. I identify with that woman. She was told not to do something, but she just had to see for herself what would happen. The cabin seems so harmless. Yep, that's been me plenty of times. My own personal haunted forest or my own cabin is overscheduling myself. I have so many interests and so many passions in life, I just want to do everything. But I also have low energy and a lack of ability to concentrate, so this gets me in trouble. I find that I sometimes let down people who I care about because I can't keep up with everything that I said that I would do. In these past few years, I've had several people give me advice, taking on the role of the old man. They tell me to slow down, to let go of certain obligations. I listen, I contemplate, and then I usually keep on doing exactly what I was going to do, or I make a few changes, but not enough. I should have listened to that old man. And that, my friends, is why these types of movies have so many sequels. I keep going back to that cabin in the woods. I keep thinking that this time I won't make that same mistake. It will be different somehow. I'm proud to say that earlier this year I took a detour. I resigned from one of my responsibilities, even though it was one that I'm really passionate about. I'm still overscheduled, overcommitted, but I have hope. I'm learning very slowly. Remember all of those sequels. But I'm listening and growing and changing, and I hope and look forward to making more new mistakes and fewer old ones.
mistakes, the fear of failure, the fear of messing up again. What if it doesn't go right? What if it doesn't go as planned? This runs much of our lives. We're going to do a scene now, a skit, that kind of tells one of these tales about parenthood. This is the Buckman family. They're a Midwestern family dealing with the challenges of life, the many trials of childhood and of parenthood, pressures at work, and estranged and irresponsible relatives, such as Gil Buckman's brother Larry. Gil Buckman is a very anxious person. He's frustrated in his career as a sales executive because of unjust office politics and long hours, and he recently walked away from his job. Gil wants to spend more time with his children and to be a better father to them. He feels inadequate and seriously questions his parenting skills, especially as his oldest son begins psychological therapy, and Gil realizes that his two younger children have some emotional problems as well. He has recently learned that his wife, Karen, is pregnant with their fourth child.
Dave called. He was crying. He actually cried. If I come back, they'll give me a corner office with new furniture and a raise. Like that's supposed to make up for everything. Anyway, I took the job. I couldn't think. I was still high from the Little League game. Isn't that demented? A grown man's happiness depends on whether a 9-year-old catches a pop-up. What if he missed?
But he didn't.
But he could have.
But he didn't, Gil. You threw him 12 million pop-ups in the backyard. You cut the odds considerably. If you hadn't... Oh, ow.
But that's 3 of them. And you want to have 4. And the 4th one could be Larry. They're going to do a lot of things. I mean, baseball's the least of it. And in all those things, sometimes they're going to miss.
Sometimes they won't.
Sometimes they will.
What do you want me to give you? Guarantees? These are kids, not appliances. Life is messy.
I hate messy. It's so messy.
Watch out for me. Okay, thanks. Okay. You know, when I was 19, Grandpa took me on a roller coaster ride.
Oh?
What a ride. Oh my. I always wanted to go again. You know, it was just interesting to me. It was just interesting to me that a ride could make me so frightened, so scared, so sick, so excited, and so thrilled all together. Some didn't like it. They went on the merry-go-round. That just goes around. Nothing. I like the roller coaster. You get more out of it. Well, I'll be seeing you in the car.
She's a very smart lady. Come on, Taylor, your ears are ready.
Well, a minute ago I was confused about life. Then Grandma came in with her wonderful and affecting roller coaster story. Now everything is great again.
I happen to like the roller coaster, okay? As far as I'm concerned, your grandmother is brilliant. Hold on. Okay, sorry, good morning. When Karen Lindebrecke asked me if I was able to speak on learning to expect the unexpected, some of you who know me may have laughed. Now, there's 2 reasons you may have laughed. I gather I have a reputation for disliking the unplanned. I understand this about myself. And some of you may actually know what I do for a living, which involves nothing but the unexpected. So I'm a planner. I am a giant type A, have a backup plan for your contingency plan kind of planner. When I make a to-do list and I encounter an unexpected task along the way, I add it at the bottom of my to-do list just so I can cross it off. Oh yeah, I see you guys nodding. Some of you do that too, right? So as you become adults, you understand that you have to have a certain amount of flexibility, whether you like it or not. You have to do it simply for survival reasons. So when I followed in the path of many UU women I know, and re-careered in my 40s, I thought I had learned a certain amount of flexibility. And that, along with my life experience, I was well equipped to work as a therapist in home health. People said, it's hard going into people's houses. No, I'm good with that. There will be significant cultural differences you will have to adjust to. No, that's cool. I'm good. Clients will sometimes behave in unexpected manners. It's good. This is half my friends, right? It's good. So along with my colleagues, all of whom have developed dark senses of humor, I have learned a few additional truths along the way. When you arrive at a home and you hear screaming from inside, it turns out the average home health worker seems compelled to run toward the screaming instead of away from it, even when it may be wiser to run away. Because behind that closed door, you might find a small fire ignited by family members attempting to use an illegal substance that has resulted in their living room looking like a scene from Breaking Bad. A naked man who you would have sworn was non-ambulatory on your last visit may be trapped in a whirlpool tub naked, along with his small dog for company. When teaching a client the only evidence-based treatment for tremors, which is slow, deliberate movement with quiet, deep breathing, it absolutely does not show cultural competence when his high decibel Islamic call to prayer clock goes off over your head and you are so startled you fall forward off of your chair. Even in your first few weeks of practice, you absolutely, no matter what, cannot show any surprise when the client, quite out of the blue, seems to have had one body part detached and reattached elsewhere, and they didn't feel fit to mention that in his plan of care or medical status report. I have learned to keep a straight face when a client answers the door naked, because I know our first goal is going to be lower body dressing, opens the door in a cloud of marijuana smoke, and tries to hide the fact that the participants are all great-grandmothers who volunteer at their church in the community center. Calls me their nurse, their doctor, their helper lady, or on occasion that bossy white woman who makes me move my arms and legs. When you get a patient diagnosis of generalized weakness, that could mean anything from my grandmother won't stop wearing her high heels and falls over a lot. Can you stop her? Or the patient is missing one or more body parts. I think the real lesson in learning to expect the unexpected in people and meet it with grace was first put into words for me here at this church. The inherent worth and dignity of every person. The dignity side can be challenging to uncover when your client is naked in their whirlpool tub with their small growling dog. But their worth, I can find that every time. I recently failed a job interview because the interviewer, who actually claimed to have a background in home health, asked me, "Have you ever run across a challenging client in home health?" If so, How did you deal with that? I believe I looked at her as though she were a complete moron, which was a bad choice in the situation, and said, "So you've worked in home health, right?" But then I pulled it together, and my answer went something like this. I have a client who insists on me as his favorite therapist. He is a racist, misogynistic, homophobic, former Chicago cop who, after working with me for many months, has an idea of who I am. I go in there and work with him to move him towards improved health and wellness, and I truly want to improve the quality of his life, just like I do any other client, because I can see his worth. The truly unexpected part is that the first principle isn't just words on a paper for me anymore. It has become a part of who I am in a very real way, and I find it running through my head on a daily basis when I'm in challenging situations. So I wanted to say thank you to all of you, to this church, because you have helped me reinforce that principle over and over throughout the years. And the wisdom I've gained here from so many sources has been a great resource in learning to weather and embrace the unexpected in my life.
Please rise in body or in spirit to join in singing hymn number 311. Let it be a dance. The words are found in the gray hymnal and will be projected to my right.
Dance with you.
share for the ups and the downs and the twists and the turns of our lives. Many things that happen we can take credit for, including both good and not so good decisions and actions. But many things that occur we have no immediate control over. We only control our reactions to the event in that particular moment. We may have anticipated an event and planned to prepare very well for it, but even the best laid plans can go awry. I, like many of you, continue to learn this on a very regular basis. I've had my share of derailing events, and these do not fall under the category of uh-ohs. These are major life events, but they taught me a lot. As many of you know, I'm on my third marriage. And of course, I thought at the time that I married my former two spouses that those marriages would last until the end of my life. Then in 2013, I nearly lost my oldest child to suicide. There were some signs, but I did not realize the degree to which she was suffering with anxiety and depression. This was an eye-opening, life-changing event for me, as I certainly was not expecting this. Divorce, serious illness, death, or the loss of a career are not uh-ohs of life. That reading about the juniper tree came from Robert Fulghum's book, Uh-Oh. And when he's referring to uh-ohs, those are in a particular category. As we get older, increasingly larger things may seem to fall more in that category, but not those big major events. However, we learn from them, and they help me to handle the everyday uh-ohs of life very differently. They changed my perspective. They helped me to learn to stay in the present and to not sweat the small stuff. It really wasn't that important. Sometimes you learn the reverse way. It might be nice to have learned all along how to not sweat the small stuff, and that can help prepare you for larger events, but sometimes it happens in the reverse. I became much more judicious in what I would allow to upset me. According to my youngest daughter, I became an old owl. Are you saying that old owl stuff again, Mom? When did you become such a wise old owl? How old are you? Thanks. This September, I lost my job of almost 7 years. This is not the first time this has happened. It affected me much more negatively 10 years ago when I lost my job at the university. I'm viewing it differently, and I think it's because of things that have happened in my life in the meantime. This is my opportunity now. I see it very differently. I see it as an opportunity to take risks that I didn't take before. I see it as an opportunity to develop new partnerships, to try to start my own business, a name that I have procured the domain for through GoDaddy, not Dottie, that's a different website, I guess, GoDaddy.com. For 7 years, I have had this name reserved for the business I want to start. So now I said, why not? This is my time. I'm 54 years old. If not now, then when? So I don't think I would have done that 10 years ago. So part of it's age, but a lot of it has to do with not getting derailed by the small things and being willing to take those risks and live your life and let it be a dance. A great piece of advice comes from Robert Fulghum's book, Uh-Oh, another one. One of life's best coping mechanisms is to know the difference between an inconvenience and a problem. If you break your neck, if you have nothing to eat, if your house is on fire, then you've got a problem. Everything else is an inconvenience. Life is inconvenient. Life is lumpy. But a lump in oatmeal and a lump in the throat and a lump in the breast are not the same kind of lump. One needs to learn the difference. I'd like to share with you some quotes. I do not expect you to read them all, and I'm not going to read them all to you, but there might be some that capture people from their different perspectives. I tried to be a little bit inclusive. So I'll just share a few inspirational words of these that speak to me. They come from a variety of sources, and one of them is from the Buddha. The secret to health in both mind and body is not to mourn for the past, not to worry about the future, but to live in the present moment wisely and earnestly. Mindfulness and staying in the present are essential to our mental health, to handling the daily challenges, both big and small. We can learn from the past. We cannot change it. So ruminating on what we should have done differently or on past hurts does not help us in the long run. It might help us to understand our feelings and perspectives, but it can't change what occurred. That's a hard thing to learn. We can plan and prepare for the future, but we cannot control it. We can worry about what is yet to come, but it only steals from our happiness of the present. Being mindful and staying in the present is not easy for most of us, including myself, but it is a key ingredient of happiness and well-being. Another one in particular that stood out to me is, no one would have crossed the ocean if he had gotten off the ship in the storm. That's kind of where I feel I am right now with my career. I'm staying on this ship and I'm going for it. I don't know what's going to make it, but I'm going to give it a good try. And then from Khalil Gibran, your pain is the breaking of a shell that encloses your understanding. One of these I put up here to appeal to our geologists, paleontologists, and scientists, which is coprolites happen. Coprolites, if you don't know, are fossilized dung. So this quote is a reminder that uh-ohs have always happened and always will, so we had best expect them. Maybe there are a few gems in here that speak to you, and I am certain that many of you have collections of inspirational words or images or stories that help guide you through life's challenges as well. Following the offering, we'll take some time this morning to reflect on and share such inspirations with each other. We'll share the wisdom of the ancients and share the wisdom within our community. The offering today will be for the work of this beloved community. The offering will now be given and received. Please give generously.
Listen. With the night falling, we are saying thank you. We are stopping on the bridges to bow from the railings. We are running out of the glass rooms with our mouths full of food to look at the sky and say thank you. We are standing by the water, thanking it, standing by the windows, looking out in our directions. Back from a series of hospitals, back from a mugging, after funerals, we are saying thank you. After the news of the dead, whether or not we knew them, we are saying thank you. Over telephones, we are saying thank you. In doorways and in the backs of cars and in elevators, remembering wars and the police at the door and the beatings on stairs, we are saying thank you. In the banks, we are saying thank you. In the faces of officials and the rich and of all who will never change, we go on saying thank you, thank you. With the animals dying around us, taking our feelings, we are saying thank you. With the forests falling faster than the minutes of our lives, we are saying thank you. With the words going out like cells of a brain, with the cities growing over us, we are saying thank you, faster and faster. With nobody listening, we are saying thank you, thank you, thank you, we are saying and waving, dark though it is.
We join together in search for deeper meaning, for truth, and for light. We join together to try and unite our fragmented lives into renewed wholeness. We know that we must overcome our delusions, our dark sides, and find ways to charity and self-truth. We do this knowing that we may fail, but in hope that together we each may find what we seek. We hope for a new day dawning out of each new dark night, for growth, for light, and for warmth, in fellowship and within ourselves. In this spirit, we gather and commune with one another. We invite you now to reflect for a moment on your lives and some of the undesirable and unexpected events. How have you learned to cope with such events? What are some wise words or inspirational messages that help you? What are some thoughtful practices, thinking strategies, philosophies, or physical activities that help you to keep your mental or emotional balance or to rise again if you have fallen? After I ring the chime, we invite you to turn to another person and to share your reflections. Then, if you have some learned wisdom to share with all of us, we will invite you to do so. Now, if you'd like to take a moment and turn to somebody near you and share one of the thoughts that came to your mind. lovely people. Oh, that actually worked. Okay, okay. So thank you. I know hopefully there's a lot more to share, and if so, please continue this conversation after service as well. We do have some time. Did anyone want to share one of the pieces of wisdom or things they do to get through a challenging time? I have a mic if anyone feels compelled to share. Yeah.
Don't need a mic. Yes, you do. This isn't mine. 1 foot in front of the other.
It's mine. In front of the other. Okay, I'm gonna head to the back corner so we can. Did you hold your hand up?
No, I was just saying that was what I had said, 1 foot in front of the other.
Okay, he took your answer. I see, I see. Does anyone else?
So something that I just shared was that I've had a lot of difficulties in my life younger on, and how I look at it determines the outcome of that event. And so I look at it as it's here to serve me and my higher purpose, and to help me grow as a person. And if the higher power didn't think I was strong enough to handle it, it wouldn't be here. So I look at it as a positive challenge, and also a way to open my heart and be compassionate to those who may have experienced the same thing or those that are suffering. So it's how you look at it, and it's there to serve a higher purpose.
Use what talent you possess. The woods would be very silent if no birds sang there except those who were the best.
Very true. Okay. Well, thank you all. Did I get everyone? Great. Thank you all for sharing.
Thank you so much for sharing with each other and for sharing with us this morning. We invite you now to please rise in body or in spirit to join in singing our closing hymn, number 38, Morning Has Broken. The words can be found in the gray hymnal and will be projected to my right. Briefly want to share with you that that is actually a song that my family sings at every funeral. So it's appropriate for today as well. Life presents us with many challenges, many uh-ohs and many oh-nos. And at times we may feel we cannot cope with any more obstacles or missteps or disappointments or mistakes or problems. Sometimes they just seem to come one on top of the other. During these times especially, we need to remind ourselves that from the events of our lives come the songs of our hearts. From the struggle to survive comes the melody of hope. From the broken places of the Spirit come our anthems of praise, and from the deep silence of the soul comes the solace of peace. From the offerings of love come the new shapes of the divine, and from our community, with what we share, comes the promise of tomorrow. Keep these words in mind as we extinguish our chalice. We invite you now to turn and greet each other, especially those you may not know well. Bright blessings to you all.